Hello everyone, today we'll be doing a practice circuit in Sydney, taking off from runway 16 right, and we'll be doing full pre-flight. We're starting from a cold and dark cockpit, not even backlight is on, except on my throttle quadrant, which I have not yet modified to take the availability of power into account. So first thing we're going to do, as we jump into the cockpit, we're going to make sure that the parking brake is on, and it is on. Next thing we're going to do is jump to the overhead and adjust the plane by turning on the battery. And now the battery is on. As you can see, the background color, the backlight, sorry, is still not on, as we just turned on the battery, not the AC power. So we need a source of AC power. So let's go ahead and start the APU. As the APU is starting, we'll go ahead and cross-check that our gear lever is in down position. We have 3 green lights. We'll check that the flap position is at 0 and that the gauge, the position gauge says 0. I have that. That the speed brake is in down position. Fuel cutoff switches are in cutoff position. And everything seems to agree. And we have APU started right there, and the APU generators are available. Let's put them on bus. And now we have AC power to the aircraft. We can now go ahead and adjust our panel lighting. So we can name that one on or off, turn on or off. Or the panel backlight over there. So I'll set it to a comfortable level for me, and so that you can see. And now we should be starting with a pre-flight flow on the overhead. I do not have after overhead panel, so I will not be doing anything there. So I just know that the IRS is now being aligned. I do not need to turn it on, so I'll just continue on with the flow as if I have completed everything in the after overhead panel. Alright, so there we go. Now we need to make sure that flight controls are on and guarded. A quick test here we can do that the standby hydraulic system actually works. We turn this two switches on, the low pressure lights extinguish, so that means that standby hydraulic system works, and we also do not have any standby hydraulic system warning lights coming on, so everything is good there. So we'll turn this back on and have them guarded. The yaw damper is coming on. Right, the navigation IRS and source selectors are all normal and auto, and control panel will be both on 1. The reason for that is that I do not have the EFIS on the first officer side active, therefore I want to control everything from my side. Therefore this switch is in the left position. Now we're going to test the crossfeed valve, and it operates normally. Now we're going to do a quick test of the fuel pumps. We expect these lights to extinguish. Everything works well. We'll continue here. Now the APU generator. The APU generator says we have 120 volts at 400 Hz. That's fine. We need a minimum of 115 volts. Now the battery is fine. We're pushing in 23 amps into the battery. This is good. And we have 25 volts in there. This is fine. Standby power goes to auto. The transfer bus switch is guided at auto. The wipers are off, obviously enough. This is the panel lighting. We don't need to fiddle with that. Equipment cooling is all at normal. Emergency exit lights are armed and guarded. Not on, they are armed. Middle position and guarded. No smoking sign is coming on. Continuing on. Let's enable our window heat. The hydraulic pumps configuration is correct. The engine ones are on and the electrical ones are off. The doors, we have the following doors open. Cabin altitude is reading 0. Well, pretty much. It's correct. The trim air switch is coming on. I don't have the temperature gauge operative, therefore you can pretty much ignore this. On that selected there, pressurization panel, recirculation fans coming on. Now we do not have any bleed air connected right now, but we have started the APU, so the bleed supply is available, so we'll turn APU bleed air on. We'll see this gauge indicating that the pressure is rising. Excellent. We'll turn on the PEX to auto, and the oscillation valve between two left and right manifolds is at open position, so the pressure is equalized. Now we'll set up the pressurization panel. We'll be flying at 1500 feet today, while practice circuit, and about 50 feet for the landing. And we'll make sure that the controller is set to auto, so let's just turn the alternate on, and back to auto, and we're good to go. Now the lights, everything should be off on the landing lights. Everything is off, no taxi light either. The engine start, the ignition is going to be left side because we found it on the right side. Now we're going to enable position lights onto steady, anti-collision light is off, logo lights, let's turn it on. Wing lights are off, and wheel well, let's turn that on. Now at the moment, as you can see, the IRS has not aligned yet, and the screens do not show much of useful information, so we should probably continue down onto the VNC and program that. As we can see, IRS is asking us for our current position so that it can actually initialize itself properly. So we'll just quickly jump and take a GPS coordinates. Oops. We clearly see that 2 GPS left and right agree in the position. The radio 1 is somewhat off. So we'll take the GPS and tell IRS that this is our current position. And let's continue on filling in the rest of the data. So YSSY is the code for Sydney. So this is our airport route. So notice how Sydney is pre-populated. So we'll be taking off from Sydney and actually coming back to Sydney. The runway will be 16 right. And goes into runway. We activate, execute. Now for performance, I just know my weights right now. Actually, let's note here, have a look at the fuel. We have 6.4 tons. I should be starting with 7 tons. So let's quickly jump in and fix it up. So I need 3.5 tons in each of the wing tanks. And we can continue on onto our route performance initialization. And notice now we have 7 tons of fuel. Oh, and IRS has just finished aligning, and the screens came on. Now let's continue on. So our weight is 41, 0 fuel weight. Notice how the gross weight has been calculated automatically. We have no reserves within the circuit. Cost index is irrelevant for us. 1500 feet. Execute N1 limit. So we can do a derated takeoff at 60 degrees assumed temperature. We are very light, and if we don't do that, we'll just fly like a rocket. The takeoff will be 15 flaps, because again we're doing a practice circuit. And notice how we have V2 of 125. Let's put this in. And we're good. Now let's continue on with our pre-flight flow. Let's set the minimums. The minimums will be 500. for our practice circuit. Let's set the barometric pressure. Of course. So the course will be 155 today. On the IS Max selector we're going to put 125. This is our V2 speed, which we have just seen in the FMC. Right there. V2. The heading you set will depend on obviously what route you're flying. So today we're doing a practice circuit. We're going to set it to 335, which is our opposite course. In the altitude, we're going to set 1500 feet. There we go. And here we're just going to set the same runway course of 155. We're good to go. So this is our downwind course, downwind heading. Now we continue down on. We're going to make sure that the auto brake select is in RTO position, which is rejected takeoff. So if we need to reject the takeoff on or before V1 speed, the full auto brake will apply. This is rejected takeoff. And I think we're pretty much complete with the pre-flight flow. So let's do a checklist. So oxygen is tested at 100%. Well, I don't have any oxygen hardware, so I'll assume it's tested at 100%. Navigation, transfer and display switches, normal and auto. And we noted that control panel is set to the left position on both on one. Window heat is on. Right there, we have four green lights. Pressure mode selector is on auto. Again, we've seen that. That switch right there says auto. Next item is flight instruments. So we have a heading of 335 and altitude of 1500 feet. And the altimeter is set to 3023. You can see it right there. Normally you would get ATIS information. So right now, I'm not following a full procedure or anything. This is just a practice circuit. Now parking brake is set. It is set. And engine start levers are in cutoff position, and they are. And the pre-flight check is complete. Now we're getting ready to start. So let's go ahead and configure the overhead for engine start. So we will enable the fuel switches. We'll flip the electronics panel to generator 1. Nothing to do here. Everything is fine in here. We'll make sure the fasten seatbelt sign is on. Everything is fine here. And everything is fine here. So again, depending on which flow you do, you may want to turn all hydraulic system off on A side and leave the B's on. For now, for today's flight, it's fine as is. Everything is right here. Everything is fine here. We're going to turn the packs off so that we have pressure available for engine start. We're going to turn anti-collision lights on. So this is to indicate to the ground personnel that we're about to start engines. And we are pretty much good to go. Let's see what's going to do here. So recall, we can do recall, so we have flight control panel and electrical panel. This is expected. We do not have hydraulic pressure in system A and B. We can check that hydraulic systems are operative by turning on electrical pumps and seeing this light extinguish. So I'm turning on this pump and system A low pressure light is extinguished. I'm going to turn on electrical B pump and the B low pressure light is extinguished. Alright, let's do a before start checklist. Okay, flight deck door, closed and locked, and I have a door. Fuel, we have 7 tons of fuel. Passenger signs are on. Windows are locked. MCP, mode control panel. We have V2 of 125, we have heading of 335, and we have altitude of 1500 feet. The V speeds, V1 will be 111, VR, the speed at which we are going to rotate, is 112, and V2 is 125, set on the MCP. The CDE pre-flight is complete. So this line pre-flight complete. Rudder and aileron trim 3 and 0. Well, I don't have the trim settings in hardware, so I know that they're at 0. Taxi and takeoff briefing is complete. We did not do any briefing, but we will be taxiing to runway 16 right. Taxiways of our choice at this stage. No controllers to control us. And anti-collision light is on, as we just turn it on. And our before start checklist is complete. So we are good to start the engines. So let's start the engines. We're going to be starting engine number 2 first. We can see N2 is rising. And N1 is rising as well. As we hit 22 on N2, I'm going to hit the fuel cutoff switch, put it into the idle descent, and we are monitoring the engine indications as the hand rests on the cutoff switch in case we need to abort the engine startup sequence. At about 56 and 2, the engine start switch is going to return to off, as it just did. And now we're just waiting for this red indicator to disappear, and after that the engine start sequence is complete. And there it is. We're jumping back to overhead panel. We're setting the ignition on the engine number 2 continuous, and we're starting engine number 1. Exactly same sequence. We're waiting for N2 to reach approximately 22. On max motoring, where it does not rise anymore. And we're giving it the fuel now. Okay, the switch is returning back to off. There it is. Let's see. We're waiting for the engine startup sequence to complete. Again, it's done. Now we can set this switch to continuous. We can put the engine generators onto the electrical buses, but disconnecting the EPU at the same time. The EPU is not needed anymore. We can continue with the overhead scan as per normal. nothing to do here. So we are going to turn the probes on now. We're going to turn on the hydraulic pumps. And we're going to set up our pressurization panel. So we're going to turn the engine blades on. Notice the dual blade comes on, that's because the EPU blade is also on. We're going to disconnect the EPU. We're going to set the isolation valve to auto, and we're going to set the PEX to auto as well. And now we're good for pushback. And so now we're pretty much ready to taxi. Sorry, for pushback and taxi. Just before I initiate the pushback, I'd like to add a few range rings which will assist in flying a circuit. To do that, I'm going to go into a fixed page, enter Sydney VIDME, select that, and I'm going to put 2 range rings of 2 and 5 nautical miles. There they are. This will assist us in flying the circuit. And now we are ready for pushback. We'll probably request clearance from a controller for pushback and taxi, but we don't have a controller, so we'll just go ahead and do it. So go to menu, maintenance, ground services, and we'll be pushing to the left, and we are going to request it. Before we're doing that, we're releasing the parking brake. And we are being pushed back. Today we will be taxiing via taxiway Bravo, and then we'll turn left onto Bravo 2 and we'll enter runway 16 right. We'll take off. Alright, our pushback is complete. And setting the parking brake. And let's do our before taxi checklist. The generators are on. Right there. The prop head is on. Right there. The NTIs, we do not use it. The isolation valve is set to auto. Engine start switches are in continuous. We have to do a recall. Let's just quickly do a recall. And nothing shows up. Excellent. The auto brake is in RTO position. The flaps are, let's set the flaps. We're going to set the flaps to 15. The engine start levers are in idle detent and secure. The flight controls, let's check the flight controls. Alright. And the flight controls are checked. And ground equipment is clear. So we are good to taxi. Again, we would have requested clearance by now, but we don't have a controller, so we are just good to taxi. We're going to release the parking brake, and set displays back to normal, and we're going to taxi. So taxiway Bravo is right there on our right. We have Bravo 3 going to the left and right. So we're going just a little bit further until Bravo 2, and after then we're onto the runway. Well, there is a lovely Sydney, you can see over there, Sydney CBD. And a Qantas 747 hangar right there. Alright, now we're approaching Bravo 2. Right there, you can see. And we're going to turn left here, and we will be on the runway. So let's turn our landing lights on. Let's turn the strobe and steady. The position lights. Moving into the runway. We wouldn't just enter the runway normally. We'll have a quiet clearance from tower beforehand, but if we don't have tower, so we'll just have to improvise. Let's run through before takeoff checklist. Flaps, we have 15 and green light. And stabilizer trim is set to 3. Okay, we're going to stop here. I'm going to reposition the camera. Okay, for takeoff procedure, we're going to advance throttle to about 40% on 1 and see the thrust increasing symmetrically. Then we're going to advance throttles to the takeoff thrust, which is indicated by this green bar here, which is 88.6%. Alright. Parking brake off. Advance throttles to about 40%. Thrust is raised symmetrically. Excellent. And push the throttles up. I'm going to apply slight nose down pressure as we accelerate. I'm going to remove that pressure once we reach about 70 knots, which is about now. Slight rudder pressure to counteract the wind. VR, we rotate. 2. Positive rate of climb. Gear coming up. Use a bit of crossband to counteract that. Flaps 5. And we very quickly reached 1500 feet. I just overshot it 550 feet. I'll stabilize. stabilize there and go down a little bit. We're doing right in circuit, so I'm turning right. Notice how the aircraft is relatively stable, does not need much input. So a little correction here and there. So normally as we fly downwind, we prepare the aircraft for landing. So we're going to select our approach speed of 130 knots and set it here. The auto brake will be 1. We could in theory use off. Sydney has very long runways. The circuit is fully visual, so I'm just looking for the edge of the 16 right runway over there. As we pass it, we're going to drop the gear down and set flaps to 15. Would normally do approach and landing checklist, but I'm not going to do it because I'm not an octopus. I cannot do a checklist and control the aircraft at the same time. You would easily do it with some automation if you enable autopilot to say heading select mode and use that. But we are doing it fully manually today. Okay, so we just traversed the runway, so we can set flaps to 15 and gear to down, and not let the aircraft fall down, as there is increased brake from the gears and flaps. Okay. I'm going to begin to descend and turn base, then final. The aim is to be stabilized on approach by 500 feet. This is our minimums for the circuit. And we're going to drop flaps to 30. And now we're looking for visual reference. And we see the runway. Excellent. So from now the maneuver is fully visual as we land. Okay, I'm going to start turning base. Turning final right now. So there is the runway. Okay, so we're at 700 feet, 250 minimums. Okay, we have off-schedule descent, that is fine. This is not the first circuit I've done. This is my second circuit, so that's the reason for this light. You should just ignore it. Just shooting a little bit. A little bit of rudder input, and perfect. And reverses, it brakes. Okay. We'll clear the runway onto the left, Bravo 7. This is where we're going to stop.